Hello, thanks for coming. It's time to do another major change to this game room, and I'm going to take you along for the ride. My work so far in this room has been mainly on the TV-based consoles, but today I'm going to dedicate a whole wall to my portable game systems. At this point, I have the handhelds scattered all over the place. I have some sitting on these display trays in one little small area. I have some that are in this tray that is leaning against the wall, and I have others just laying around the house. So what I want to do is unify them all and display them all on one wall. For the purposes of this video, I'm also going to treat the Vectrex and Virtual Boy as portable systems. I'm going to start by talking about the coffee table that has the Virtual Boy and the Vectrex system on it. I do not like the way this looks. It's weird to have a coffee table just out to the side like that. It comes out too far from the wall. I can play them this way, and I can play them very easily. For the Vectrex, I just stretch the controller to the chair, and for the Virtual Boy, I can sit down and just lean in and play it there. I should also mention I have a lot of Vectrex games, almost all of them. I also have most of the overlays for those games. By the way, if you don't know what these are little overlays you put over top of the Vectrex system to give them color, because the monitor itself did not produce color. In the past, I did have a little wall dedicated to Vectrex, and I had the overlays hung up in these plastic sleeves in that little corner. But that was behind the door, so sometimes when you open the door, it kind of banged into that area. But anyway, I'm going to display them again on the wall, but I'm not going to have them in the plastic. So my first duty was to put the Vectrex and Virtual Boy on a new table. I tried looking for thinner coffee tables and different color ones too, ones that might match the room a little bit. And I actually couldn't find any because, as it turns out, most coffee tables are around the same dimension. After searching around Amazon and some other sites, I found a whole other class of tables, and they are called console tables. But what these are skinnier than coffee tables and higher up, which was perfect for what I needed. So I searched through tons and tons of them, and I ended up buying one that is made out of glass. Not only glass, it's a metal table as well. So here it is in a box, and I'm opening it up, obviously. So here I am taking the old table out and putting the new one in the spot, and I kind of centered it with the red curtains there, and then I started situating the Vectrex and Virtual Boy. And throughout this video, you'll see me going through some thought processes. Right here, I'm trying to contemplate whether I need these cords wrapped around the Vectrex. And I'm also testing out the Virtual Boy. As it turns out, it's still in a perfect position to just roll up like this is a desk and play the Virtual Boy. So I think that's going to turn out very well. As for the Vectrex, I figured out I didn't need the cords to be so long because who's going to play the Vectrex from that far away? I can just scoot right up to it and play it like this. So I decided to take off the controller extension cords, which I have on a lot of my systems. There they are. So now I gotta start thinking about the electricity. There's miraculously an outlet right underneath the table, right where I need it, and I'm currently using it to power 2 lamps in the room. I use these giant lights to light up the room when I do my videos, so in case you're wondering what those look like. So I bought one of these power outlet strips off Amazon, and this is actually the only red one that I saw. The cord to it kind of has a candy cane look to it, but overall I think this is going to look very good underneath the table. So I'm experimenting with different ways to do it. I could just lay it down on the ground like this and plug them in, but I ended up putting it on the wall. And then I hid the cord kind of underneath that back curtain. And there's still a lot of wire left for the Vectrex, so what I'm doing here is I'm finding ways to kind of tuck it in and hide it. I ultimately used this clamp thing to help hook it onto the glass table. So this is what I have so far for the room. I have the table and these 2 systems. So now it's time to get started on the other portable systems. I mentioned earlier I had this tray leaning against the wall. It's not ideal. It doesn't have like a rim that's big enough to keep these game systems from tumbling over, so I don't want to use it to hold the handheld systems. And plus, there's a bunch of handheld systems I have which are just too big to jam into this thing. So I browsed Amazon again, and I found a hanging shelf which I'm going to experiment with to see if it'll work. This is a package of 2 of them. And it comes with a screwdriver and a leveler and the screws. So I got a bunch of my systems out, and I purposely got ones that were different sizes and shapes to see if this shelf would do a good job of displaying them. And for the big ones, it works pretty well. I did test it to see how it would look on the wall with the larger handhelds in it. For the little ones, it doesn't quite work as well. Because it's a little too wide, they tend to fall over and fall down into the gap. So that's a problem. I kind of want a uniform set of shelves that holds all the different handhelds. And then it dawned on me, I might be able to put something inside the large shelves to make them smaller so that the handhelds can be displayed properly. And I thought about what I did for my mini systems. I have this rod. It's basically good for leaning the controllers on and allows them to be displayed in a pleasing way. If I made a similar rod and put it in this shelf, I can put it behind these little systems and they will stand up. The paint I used on it is flat, so it actually doesn't slide that well. You would think this thing would slide back and forth, but it kind of stays in place until you move it. So that was the plan I came up with. I'm going to use these shelves, and for the ones that hold the smaller systems, I'm going to cut some of these rods and then I'm going to paint them, just like I did for the minis. Luckily, I still had some paint left from when I painted the game room and from when I painted the thing I made to hold the mini systems. I went ahead and did 2 layers of paint. It's kind of tricky to paint all 4 sides of a small object. I kind of had to keep spinning them around, and I got a little messy here and there. So here they are, and I'm going to test them out a little bit more now. And it came out exactly as I expected. I think it's going to look very well, especially when it's on the red wall. I think you're not even going to notice that that red rod is there. I do have to screw these into the wall, so I want to make sure I get the spacing just right. Some game systems are tall and some are not. For the smaller ones, I'm going to leave a smaller gap above it. I need a gap big enough to reach my hand in there and take a system off the shelf, but I don't want them too far apart because, I don't know, I just don't think the gaps would look that well. This is where I spent a lot of time thinking and measuring and drawing like a diagram on a piece of paper. I started making marks on the wall with my measurements. I'm going to be using anchors to put the screws into the drywall. So I'm drilling a pretty big hole for each one of these screws, and I'm going to be hammering them in. And I finally got them all on the wall, so now I'm putting the game systems into place. While this was all going on, I actually ordered a few new systems that I didn't have before. I ordered a Game Boy Color, I ordered the original model Game Boy Advance, and I also ordered an original black and white Game Boy, but it had not arrived yet in time for the making of this video. And just for the hell of it, I'm going to put the Dreamcast VMU in there because you can actually play a few games on the VMU itself, so I think it deserves to be in there. I have a lot of different models of the DS and the 3DS. It was tough deciding which ones I should put on display and which ones I shouldn't. I don't want the whole thing to be a DS display, but I do consider the original DS a lot different from the 3DS, so I think those both should be there. And the 3DS XL I considered very different from all the others too. I'm probably spending too much time thinking about it. I'm now going to display the Virtual Boy and Vectrex games. And for that, I am going to use the tray that I had leaning against the wall earlier. There's a lot of different places I can hang this tray. I can hang it to the right of the Vectrex. I can hang it to the left and underneath where the handhelds are on their shelves. I could put it on the table with the Virtual Boy and Vectrex, but ultimately I decided to put it on the left side of the table because the right side is going to need a lot of room for the Vectrex overlays. So I did the same kind of process. I made some holes for some anchors, did some precise measurements. I tried to make sure everything was centered. And with all the drilling, there's a lot of drywall dust that I'll take care of in a little bit. So now the Vectrex overlays. I want the overlays to be as accessible as possible when I want to play the Vectrex. So I once again dug around on Amazon for some solutions, and I found these magnetic pins. There is a magnet that attaches to the pin, and what you do is you put something in between the magnet and the pin. You could basically hang something up on the wall. Now I did say pin, it's not really as strong as a nail. I have to get these inserted in the wall without them breaking. I was going to drill a little tiny hole and just put them in there, but I don't think that would have worked. I think they would have just fell out because they're not screws. They're basically teeny tiny nails. I experimented on a wall and figured out drywall is pretty soft and you could poke these things right into it. So I thought about spacing again, and I had to be very careful and make sure that these things are lined up correctly. And I did one, and you can see it here, just as I imagined. So then I started sticking the pins in the wall in the other areas, and it was surprisingly easy. I was able to do most of it just by pushing with my fingers. So I've stuck these things into the wall like so, and I knew how many I wanted to display, and I knew how many pins that I needed, so perfect planning works out when it comes to these kinds of things. I thought this wall needed some protection, so I got my Streets of Rage buddies here. They are going to guard the overlays. I also stuck on these small Castlevania posters. And here's what the wall looks like now. In the future, I'm probably going to have a couple more things added to this wall just to fill in some of the red gaps. But for now, I love how it turned out. It's very accessible. I had the Virtual Boy games and the Vectrex games. I have all the overlays there. I have the handhelds, which I can easily reach up and get one and play it. And so I've finally made good use of this third wall in the room. I thought it turned out well. Let me know what you think. And if you haven't seen some of the videos that are on the screen right now, watch some of those. I appreciate you watching this channel. May your games make you happy. I'll see you next time.